Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Franklin here, and today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I never really talked about, the kind of Pokemon that I liked over the years, and I decided, let's go make a video about my favorite Pokemon of each generation. Now, take it with a grain of salt when I say that my first game that I ever played was Pokemon Crystal. I didn't play Red, Green, Yellow, or Blue. I didn't play all Gen 1, but I ended up playing Fire and Leaf Green later down along my life. But the first game that I owned was Pokemon Emerald for the Game Boy Advance. So that's where the majority of my Pokemon journey started. That's the most vivid memories I've had. And yeah, let's get right into it. So, straight into it for Generation 1. It's not going to be Mewtwo. It's not going to be Mew. It's not going to be Dragonite, nor Charizard, or Blastoise. It's Venusaur. Now, Venusaur was actually the first starter that I chose in my copy of Pokemon Leaf Green, where I had the most time playing the remake of Generation 1. Obviously, Grass and Poison was already shared with some lame Pokemon back then, such as Oddish and the Oddish line and the Bellsprout line, but Venusaur holds a special place in my heart simply because um, I remember clearing the Elite Four and the champion in my Leaf Green version with just Venusaur. Just toxic and synthesis, burning my opponents for so much damage. It was incredible. And I actually won against Gary with Toxic on a Rhydon that didn't want to die because I already had used up all my Solar Beams and all my Giga Drains and Sludge Bombs. And they're just like, goodness gracious. I was unprepared, but I pulled through with Venusaur. Along the line, or along the road, Venusaur ended up getting a Mega, which I kind of was iffy about. But regardless, Venusaur has a special place in my heart for being the starter that everyone seems to overlook because Squirtle and Charmander exist. So there you have it for Generation 1. Now, Generation 2, I think it's going to be very obvious. I think the majority of the people would say that Tyranitar are one of the best designed Pokemon in Generation 2. I didn't really like the legendary dogs nor the legendary birds nor Celebi. I like T-Tar because it reminds me of, if anyone has watched Rugrats, it's Reptar. And basically, same color scheme. T-Tar has a very good stats as well, competitive wise, and it's been able to hold on its own for quite a while throughout generations. Ended up getting a Mega Evolution just like my Gen 1 Pokemon, and it's a very nice designed Pokemon. I don't usually use the Mega anymore in Generation 7. Obviously, disappeared in Generation 8, but T-Tar has been one of the best consistently balanced Pokemon I've ever used in competitive play. Now, as for T-Tar, as a special memory in, I guess, in Leaf Green, when you go to the Sebi Islands, I was able to pick up a Larvitar, and I think that was one of the first Pokemon that I used to experiment with breeding and egg moves. So I guess that's where the majority of my memories serve correctly with Tyranitar. Up next, we have Generation 3. Now, Generation 3 was where I owned my first Pokemon game ever. And so I will probably say that Rayquaza is my favorite Pokemon. And you might be wondering, damn, that's 3 straight Pokemon with green. Illuminati. But anyways, Rayquaza is one of the best legendary Pokemon I ever used. Just like the latter counterparts, it ended up getting a Mega Evolution that was beyond broken this time. But Mega Rayquaza was one of the first shiny Pokemon, like the first all black shiny Pokemon that I really liked very much. And Rayquaza, as a fond memory, I was unable to use it in the Battle Frontier because it's a legendary, but during gameplay or story mode, it was a beast. It was my god, it's a monster. And getting to it in the Sky Pillar was actually kind of an interesting challenge as well because the Pokemon there were kind of tough as well. And this is one of the first few legendaries where I was able to catch it without using a Master Ball. I remember using a Ultra Ball for this. It took me about 40-50 tries. Paralyzed it, tried to do my best to knock it down, and still wouldn't be able to knock it down. And I eventually ended up getting one with the Ultra Ball. So, one of the best, I guess, Dragon types in the game because of its Mega Evolution. And honestly, it looks pretty good as a mascot for Emerald, and Emerald obviously is one of the better sister games alongside with Platinum. So there's that. On to Generation 4. Um, Crazy as it seems, it's not Garchomp. It's actually Staraptor. So I like using Staraptor a lot during my Diamond days because Staraptor was just a monster. It has very good stab in normal and flying, but it has really good moves overall, like Double Edge, Close Combat, Brave Bird, U-Turn, Steel Wing if you really need it. But I think Staraptor is one of the best designed bird Pokemon that isn't a legendary, and it ended up getting a hidden ability with Reckless and made Double Edge and Brave Bird even worth more for it. I like running Choice Band or Choice Scarf, which always picks up a kill. Staraptor in the Diamond days, I used it for mostly as my flying Pokemon, just to get to town. I really like his design. Its shiny is okay, I guess. But Staraptor is probably one of my favorite bird Pokemon in all of Pokemon. Up next, Generation 5. Victini. Now, this is going to sound strange. I did not get Victini through the Liberty Pass through Pokemon Black. I eventually ended up getting it in Generation 6. Now, Victini technically, not in this generation, but in the next generation, Generation 6, is where I started using it as a core foundation of coming back into Pokemon competitively. See, at that point in time, I did play Pokemon Black. I did end up getting a Victini through someone else, and I kind of liked it. It's one of the very unique Pokemon of mine where I like its signature move. It's not trash. It's actually a really good signature move, and it's super strong. And if I'm not mistaken, as a base move, it's actually one of the strongest moves in the game. And its ability just pairs up very well. Fire and Psychic was unheard of up to the Fennekin line, so it was kind of unique at its time. And so with Victini in Generation 6, like I said, it got me back into competitive Pokemon and started learning about Smogon. And this is one of the first core Pokemon that I used to build teams around it. Assault Vest Victini was something that I enjoyed very much during the final stages of ORAS. That's when I really came back into playing Pokemon again. And it's so cute. Its shiny has been unreleased, unfortunately, but it's actually a really good shiny. It's all white and a very different, distinct red and blue. So very good Pokemon overall. I really like it very much. Even in Generation 7, it got Celebrate, and Z Celebrate made it even a gigantic monster to deal with. So Victini doesn't really have... I don't have really good fond memories of it. I just only have memories of competitive wise. And it did get me back into competitive Pokemon. So on to Generation 6. Now, I was kind of conflicted because Hoopa Unbound and Mega Diancie were like my favorites, along with Aegislash and Greninja. But in terms of raw power, in terms of something that just destroys everything, I'm going to have to say Hoopa Unbound. I really like Dark and Psychic, even though U-Turn is knocking on its door. Hoopa Unbound's signature move, Hyperspace Fury, is disgusting. Like, this is not a Pokemon, ladies and gentlemen. This is like some Dragon Ball Z shit going on around here. It has a really good move pool. I enjoyed it very much in Generation 7. I was gonna say Mega Diancie was my favorite because it technically did help me in ORAS competitively. And again, in the latter stages, along with Victini. But it did not leave a lasting impression in Generation 7 because it kind of fell off a bit because of all the checks and counters. But Hoopa Unbound, man. Choice Banded. One of my favorite memories of Hoopa was during Draft League play. And it was my Hoopa Unbound, full HP, versus a full HP Chansey. And boy, let me tell you, I know Chansey's fat as fuck, but Hoopa Unbound with the Choice Band, boom, it did like 60 to 70%. I was like, ooh, baby. And that's one of my favorite memories of Hoopa Unbound. And I actually did watch the movie where Hoopa Unbound like originated from, and it was actually one of my favorite movies of Pokemon. I completely forgot what name the movie was, But it's basically where the Hoopa Unbound goes crazy and brings back legendary Pokemon from respective time eras. So I thought it was a really good movie. And because I saw Shiny Rayquaza there, so obviously it gets more bonus points for that. But anyways, on to Generation 7. Generation 7 is where my first full generation coming back from Pokemon that I played. And it took a while for this Pokemon to get released, but Magearna is one of my favorite Pokemon. In Generation 7, people will obviously be inclined to say Marshadow or Incineroar, those kind of Pokemon, but I really like Magearna because one of the various archetypes that I played during Generation 7 was Trick Room, and I wanted to perfect Trick Room. I couldn't do it because obviously I was missing a Pokemon that was not only able to set up Trick Room, but to also just be offensive, just instead of wasting a turn of setup. And Magearna was the answer to all of that. Now, Magearna, I truly believed in Generation 7, was a little broken and not too over-centralizing, but I did think it was a little broken at first. But I really enjoyed using Magearna a lot. I like the Assault Vest variation where you can just Volt Switch and just chip away Pokemon, or it straight up specs, just blow something up. And even in Trick Room, I loved using this alongside with Mega Mawile, just destroying a bunch of fat cores. And so, Magearna, Trick Room, offensive Trick Room, really liked it very much. It's one of the very few fairy types that I truly like using in the game. Unfortunately, it's not in Generation 8, but I ended up getting the shiny, or not the shiny, the original Magearna version in Pokemon Home. So I'm very excited until that gets released. Most likely it's going to get released in the Crown Tundra DLC of Pokemon Sword and Shield, which is about like 6 months away. So I can't wait to use this Fairy and Steel Pokemon. I really like it very much. So, on to the final generation, Generation 8. Generation 8 brought a lot of good Pokemon, design-wise and typing-wise, but I will say, the one Pokemon that stood out to me, and I was conflicted about choosing this because technically I had like 3 or 4 favorites in this generation, Obstagoon came out on top. Now, a couple things. Obstagoon, have you seen its shiny though? I think shiny-wise, usually I like Pokemon that are all black or white with that kind of color palette, but it's shiny as looks like cotton candy, like blue, cotton candy, like reddish, maroonish. I think it's one of the best shinies design-wise in Generation 8, and it stands out. I was like, this guy's a menace. First of all, look at it, Obstagoon. Now, if you're a rock fan, like I am, it does remind me of the band called Kiss. Everyone knows who Kiss is if you're a rock fan. Obstagoon has a really good ability in conjunction with good moves that can just break fat shit. And that's usually been my kind of thing. A Pokemon that is able to set itself up without using any turns and just blow everything up. Obstagoon, along with Guts and the Flame Orb, is a match made in heaven. It gets access to Bulk Up. It has Facade, which can just destroy a bunch of stuff that isn't resistant to it or even immune to it in the first place. And I've always been a fan of Dark type Pokemon as well, as you guys can probably see from the list. I always love using knockoff in a generation where items are very important, like leftovers or specs or scarf. And having a bulk up and just knocking something off is just very, very, very good. I guess as a main story, as a kind of like a memory of Obstagoon, is that while I was in the wild area, my first encounter of an Obstagoon was through the wild area, particularly a raid den where there was a hidden ability Obstagoon that I wanted to get, but it had 6 shields. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? How am I going to take this thing down? And it had Defiant as a hidden ability, so every time you break the shield, its attack keeps going higher and higher. And I'm like, oh my god, this thing is a menace. I thought it's one of the worst raid Pokemon that I ever faced, but I eventually was able to catch it, and I own one. But I do prefer Guts because it's one of the best abilities it can take advantage of. Don't worry about Toxic Spikes, don't worry about T-Wave, no. Obstacle don't care. And it's a good Pokemon, on the contrary, that can go up against Grimmsnarl's prankster ability, so I thought it was a very interesting mon, and one of the best designed Pokemon I've seen in Generation 8. So there you have it. There is my quick list of favorite Pokemon per generation. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully, if you guys enjoy this, I'll be making more videos of these very soon. So thank you guys so much for the 600 subscribers as well. Peace.